Field Yates from ESPN was asked about the chances, what he thought the chances were of the Browns keeping 4 quarterbacks.
I think they could because of what you discussed, right? It's not like, hey, you're carrying two $10 million quarterbacks and you got to figure it out. I just think the reality is that now, if you can get something of value for Kenny Pickett or Joe Flacco, and you don't think one of those two guys is going to be your starter, then you probably that solves the issue for you pretty quickly. I could be wrong here, but assuming things go okay during the preseason, as in like neither of the rookies comes in and gets absolutely just looks terrible in multiple preseason exposures. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't want to keep that player on the 53-man roster, like I just don't think they're getting through waivers. I mean, I would be very surprised if Dylan Gabriel gets through waivers. He's a third-round pick, right? Like Shador, there's different circumstances. There just are. We all know what like. Part of, there are pros to being the son of Deion Sanders, but clearly there are factors. That's why he went in the fifth. It's one of the reasons. Everything else, the specter outside football.
I could see them keeping 4 quarterbacks. I think they would be able to get one of those 4 on the practice squad. If you're concerned, if you didn't draft Shador Sanders because you were concerned about what he was going to bring to the building and he was going to make all kinds of noise as a backup, why would you put that on a practice squad?
Yeah, there's no point to it. Plus, I would just think, if the Browns they chose to waive him, I don't think he's getting back to their practice squad. I think there's enough talent there where, yeah, I get that he had this, shocking draft fall that he fell all the way almost out of the top 150 entirely when, way back in January, we were talking about him we were talking about potentially going number 2 overall. So certainly there would be a market for him. I doubt he would make it that far to clear waivers and end up back on the practice squad. As for the 4 quarterbacks, I had a hard time thinking that made a lot of sense, mostly because I feel like we got to expand the rosters a little bit anyway. 53 still feels way too small for this day and age, but just kind of going back to Fields' point, the fact that all 4 of these guys are making almost nothing as far as cap charge goes, and the fact that it's much easier to find a backup corner who can play special teams in a pinch, or depth, or an offensive line body in case you need a couple guys. It's much easier to find those guys than it is to find a quarterback who you need to step in and provide for potential injury, who could pick up the system very quickly, develop some chemistry with guys, and be able to at least produce solid play. And I doubt if they had all 4 quarterbacks, all 4 would make it to the end, because certainly we all know the NFL. We all know there's going to be a quarterback or 2 that gets hurt, and then all of a sudden teams would look at the Browns and see Kenny Pickett or Joe Flacco. Maybe there's an offer that comes around and it gets the Browns an extra draft asset going forward when you still need to add more young, inexpensive talent to this roster in the next couple of years.